listening to
A to the K.
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 A to the K Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.
We're now going to move in to, as mentioned earlier, our somewhat experimental but potentially very fun segment that we have dubbed. Oh, where's it gone? We have dubbed Whiskey and Wrestling, in which we are going to go off script. We're going to do exactly what we've always done, but never on camera, and we're just going to essentially have a couple of drinks and have a little bit of a chat about whatever the fuck we want to talk about.
That is
We
true.
give ourselves
And I
a
feel
couple
like-
of jumping off points because it'll help move things along, and we'll see how this ends up. And honestly, guys, before we go into it, this is something we're looking at doing. Have we given a time limit to it, Carl? Are we saying every few months or whichever? We haven't got a strict time limit.
Every
but
once in a while. We
Yeah,
will
we're
check
looking
the
at
views.
revisiting these,
If you
yeah.
care, we'll do it
That's
frequently.
the thing.
If you
If
don't,
you find you're enjoying this, and and it's something that potentially even down the line we could go, well, give us some topics to discuss on Whiskey and Wrestling, then we could move it on in that sense. But that'll all be down to response. So we will be keeping an eye on the views, all this. But so we'll start this week's one, Carl. And we do have a couple of little topics that we've got listed. So
sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Before
no,
we
by
start
all
this
means.
one, I feel like Whiskey and Wrestling, we should toast
let's toast to Whiskey and Wrestling.
to Whiskey and Wrestling. Let's kick this thing off right, you know what I'm saying?
Kick it off
I
right,
do
man.
feel like, so this is all that is left of my bottle of whiskey from
Nice.
today.
And
So
hang on,
this is
turn
bad.
that around, Carl. What have we got? We've got a Glenfiddich. Is that a
Glenfiddich.
12?
It's a 12.
That's the best
12
one.
years.
Got to go for 12.
Oh, yeah. Aged right.
Aged
Scotch whiskey, the best you can get.
As you know, Carl,
so-
I'm a fan of whiskey. I do like a nice Glenfiddich. And I was torn. What do we have for the inaugural Whiskey and Wrestling? And I realised I haven't been to the shops, and I had to look at what's in the cupboard. And I don't know if you do the same thing, Carl, and this could be our first topic. I have different levels of whiskey. I have whiskies that are like, I'm definitely going to put something with it, like lemonade or cola or even
Oh,
just water or ice, because it's not the best, but it does the job.
Mhm.
And then I have really nice whiskies like your Laparag or your Glenfiddich or Brewdar or something like that, or your ones that are more of a liqueur, that are obviously a lot sweeter, so you get that out of it. But when I looked in my cupboard, I had a bottle of Grant's, which it's not bad. I had me Jack Daniels, which I was drinking the last few weeks just to get the bottle done. I love a bit of Jack Daniels and honey, but your standard Jack, I don't tend to drink too much. And then I had a decanter that I actually sort of inherited off my granddad many moons ago, that just had some whiskey that I put in there, which I'm sure was a nice whiskey, but I've no idea what it is at this point because it's been in there for a while. So I'm drinking the mystery whiskey.
The mystery whiskey. Like, for me, that is the shame, because obviously with it being so nice and stuff, and obviously because you put it in the decanter, it's obviously a top class one, and to not remember what one it is.
I know,
is
that's the worst thing, because it is
devastating.
nice. I've been enjoying it all night, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I could remember what one I put in here.
Yeah.
I'll find it
well,
again.
I am on the Glenfiddich. It is a staple of the whiskey community. It's not my favourite, but it is definitely up there. There's not many whiskies I can drink just by themselves. Like Jack Daniels by itself is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can't do it. It's not like, I know it's common, great, but I'm not a bourbon fan. I'm a Scotch fan. And so for me, I would say Aberlour is my favourite one of all
You
time.
actually put me onto Aberlour. It is a really nice whiskey. In fact, guys, the original, or the first thing that we did, the Rumble talk, was probably the last time that we actually sat together and watched wrestling.
So long.
And I think we actually drank an Aberlour that time, didn't we?
I think we did, and it was fine. I think our old school ritual was, let's get some Aberlour, let's get some Domino's pizza, and let's have a good time. And that was it.
Because that's the thing. Because like obviously we've been friends for so many years, and like we started out watching wrestling when we were kids, and I think we both left wrestling for a while. But for some reason with WWE especially, you always sort of get hyped into the Rumble and to the subsequent road to WrestleMania. And I think we always found ourselves getting on board with WWE again, even if it was just for those few months. To the point that then, like, we made it that tradition. We were saying, right, we'll always meet up for the Rumble, we'll always meet up for Mania, and we'll have a few drinks, and we'll sort of live that nostalgia. And that's where the I suppose in our adult life the love of wrestling came back, I suppose, but certainly what fueled the podcast. And a fun one to talk on Whiskey and Wrestling is this isn't the first time we've made A to the K, is it, Cal?
Oh no, it is not.
Because many moons ago, I would say about 12, 13 at that, when we were both
how old
very
were
poor
we?
web designers.
Yeah, I would
we weren't great at
say.
it.
Were we in college, or were we last year's of high school?
I'm gonna say it was last year's of high school, because I remember it was around the time Zach Gowen was in WWE. And I only remember that because one of the things because we made a .tk website. That's how old this was. I don't even think. Can you still get them? I don't know.
I don't think you can.
And we tried to make a website where we put sort of written articles on there, which I really hope don't exist anymore, because I'm guessing my writing skills as a teenager weren't the best. And I remember being sort of mesmerized by Zach Gowen, which actually one of the topics we mentioned is first wrestling memories, and this is by no means a first wrestling memory, but I remember being totally mesmerized by Zach Gowen, who, for those of you who don't know Zach Gowen, he is, I don't know if he's the world's first, but he's certainly WWE's first one-legged wrestler. And he was featured quite heavily for a little while in the, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s. I want to say 2002, 2003 maybe. But yeah, he had a run in WWE anyway, and it's just something incredibly mesmerizing about watching it, especially because he was not weirdly, that's unfair, but he was a high flyer. Like he would do like your moonsaults and stuff like that, and fair play to him. He never once let that disability slow him down. And that, I think that's what I recall. One of the first things I tried to sort of write on our really slap together websites, which I'm not in sort of your logo skills have always been top notch. And anyone who's interested, right? If you go to our Instagram, one of the first posts on our Instagram is the first logo, the original logo Carl made, and that is almost an homage to what we had when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
As much as I love what we've got now, the design is just on point now, as far as I'm concerned. Like that sort of bubble, that circly one, is almost an homage to what we had way back when as teenagers.
Yeah. Like I remember it was back in probably the Macromedia days before Adobe bought Fireworks. I remember creating this logo. It felt futuristic. I downloaded a futuristic font.
Yeah.
It was like, we are A to the K. We are going to be the future of wrestling. Let's have a futuristic font. I had a glow effect. It was blue, and
Oh yeah.
Times have changed, shall we say?
Yes.
But we had we had A to the K.tk. We always knew we were going to have the A to the K theme song from Cypress Hill. And I remember the picture we took at the time.
Around the time we were going to be wrestlers as well.
well, exactly. But I remember the picture we took at the time was one we took in the back of our Kev's van or car, whatever he was driving at the time, where we were on our way to either Sheffield or Newcastle. I forget which one we went to together.
I keep going to Newcastle myself. I feel like that was the one.
I think it was Newcastle. I think we went over the moors. It was a long trip. But we went, obviously, and we took a picture with a digital camera maybe at the time.
Yes, I actually borrowed my mum's digital camera.
There you go. Yeah.
I remember that because I zoomed it, like massively zoomed in, because we were quite far from the ring. And I'm like, they looked really good on the screen on the digital camera. And then when you put them big on the PC, it wasn't quite as good. And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
But there you go. I sadly don't know where any of them pictures are now either, but we got some like choice pictures of like Shelton Benjamin and Victoria and very Christian, distinct ones that stick out in my mind to that particular show.
The one thing which I don't know, and apologies if I'm referencing a show that we weren't at together, but the one thing that sticks out for me from all the shows I've been to is Kane's pyro. I've never felt heat on my face.
I was with you for that, and I know that for a fact because I remember you complaining about that.
like literally, like I felt like I was on fire, and it was just like, holy shit.
I was sort of the other side of you, so I think you caught all the heat, if you know what I mean. So I distinctly remember you complaining about that, but I never caught the heat of the pyro.
I just felt like my face was melting. I was like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, is my eyeball still in existence?
Ironically, started wearing a mask for a while. It was...
I know, yeah. I was damn my brother, the Undertaker. But no, I think there's so many amazing memories. especially if like the shows we've been to and stuff. Like I think that one was a prime example. I think we've said it a couple of times jokingly that I got to stroke Victoria's shoulder. It's one of my highlights.
We mentioned that a couple of times
in life.
Yeah.
High five and Shelton Benjamin. I think you
a high five from Shelton B. I remember, because you were like you've always been a mark for the biz, and I remember trying to get a high five from Christian, and you didn't even bother because you're like, no, he's a heel, he's not going to do it anyway.
Well, subsequently after that, he went into the ring and was like, "Hey, you limey bastards!" And it was the most Christian promo ever. Obviously he was the captain of the Peeps at the time, or whatever the fuck he was.
Oh yeah,
Captain Charisma. And he tore as a new one. But
oh yeah,
I've always loved that about. And it's mad to think now, like looking back, I'm pretty sure MVP was there. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of guys who were still there today who were wrestling in that card.
I would love to be able to pick up on what that card was. My memory is so shot on that I can remember a few bits. I can't. We still struggle to remember what one we went to. I thought I'd love to remember what the card was for the night. If we need some sort of magical website where you can put in fractured bits of information. Like these wrestlers were here. We know this much.
Well, we need that for one that's a bit more local to us, Anthony, don't we? Because off the back of you talking about Zach Gowen, we've been having discussions about this, haven't we?
Yes.
What are your memories of the Ormskirk Civic Hall event? Yeah,
so I remember certain things I pick up on, right? I remember because this was around the time. I don't know if you'd stopped doing it or you were still kind of doing it, but this was around the time you were doing your wrestling training, which I think you've mentioned before on the podcast, but you were actually training with, forgive me, what was the name of the company you were with at the time? They were, I think, Wigan-based, weren't they? But
yeah, so they were based at Hindley is where they put the shows on, but they were Garage Pro Wrestling. They're now gone on to be Grand Pro Wrestling. So I spent about 2 years there.
So you were at about 2 years at GPW. So one of the things that sticks out for me, which will obviously be a different experience for you, but a good handful of the lads who were at this show at the Civic Hall were people who you knew. So that was a little bit surreal for me. So I remember there was a particular spot where one of them was being a heel character, and I don't remember if they were throwing water or something like that, but they deliberately sort of targeted you just because they knew you, and then chuckled at themselves. I remember that distinctly because I was like, that's really funny. I remember the original Undertaker coming out to Hell's Bells by AC/DC, which did work really well actually, but he was just a complete and utter rip-off of the Undertaker, which is fine. That works fine. He did the character.
But we still marked the fuck out for him, didn't we?
Oh,
let's be honest.
Yeah. And I honestly, I've had my doubts since Carl didn't remember this, but I distinctly remember Zach Gowen being like the sort of big feature of that because they got him. And now I'm starting to wonder whether I just imagined.
My memory is fucked. So I imagine if you remember that being a thing, it was definitely a thing. Like I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. That is my memory. But
as far as memories go, the last one for me, I remember when the event finished and there was this sort of weird lull where everything was being set away, but it wasn't away, and we basically got in the ring before they all kicked us out.
Yeah,
we couldn't play in the ring, and that was probably the first and so far only time I've ever set foot in a ring. And that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was very cool. I think it was not. I think, as we said, I don't know whether it was. I was at my 2-year point, but it was not long after I'd been training with GPW at the time. And they'd introduced me to ring work at that point, and it was like taking bumps in the ring and stuff, going off the top rope in the ring, and it hurts a lot more than you think it would do. And like you think about it, and it's like you think about it as this being this big soft thing, but it's really not. It's wood, and there's a tiny bit of foam.
But that's the thing. You look at it and you go, it looks padded, but that's actually quite a thin layer of foam there before you're on the wood. Really?
Yes, 100%. And like, to be fair, thinking back at my time at GPW, like I had a couple of matches, but not necessarily in front of like loads of fans and stuff. I was never really part of their main shows. I did a couple of referee spots at like the bigger shows where there was like loads of people and stuff. But it was like a fantastic experience. I remember one of the most surreal moments from that time there was being in the dressing room with Gangrel.
Nice.
And just being like, that's Gangrel. And like at the time, like we didn't have phones that like took pictures or anything like that. It was like so old school. Like
this was back in the day, guys. We were made up in college to have flip phones. You know what I'm saying?
We are old as fuck. But Like I just remember being sat there and like fucking Gangrel's just there changing, like literally like this far away from me, and I'm just sat there, my little referee fucking costume, my little dicky bow on, and I'm just like, that's Gangrel, and like that was one of the best moments
I've
ever.
decided
And
now we need to approach Gangrel.
we need to.
I want to get him on the podcast now. I need to talk about
100%. Like, you remember being right. I was that shit referee. But I remember like one of my main trainers at the time was a guy called Lee Butler, based out of Wigan. Unfortunately, he's passed away now. And I just like I didn't realize that like he passed away a while ago. I didn't realize till like about like at some point a couple of months ago, and I was just like, holy shit, I didn't realize. But like I just remember him just like knowing the UK scene, and there was this other guy who was training to be a wrestler, and it was like one of his first matches he'd been called up to. It was like a Royal Rumble type thing, and he was like, you know, as a referee, you've got to go down, you've got to pat them down, you've got to check they haven't got any foreign objects and whatever. And I was doing that, and then that, like, as a referee, like, people don't realize this, you're like one of the main communicators between the wrestlers. And so I was there going like, okay, any messages and stuff. It's like, tell him to call me a fat shit, and I'm like, okay. And they're like going over to the other guy and like, call him a fat shit, and he was just so timid, like, I'm not gonna call him a fat shit. And I was like, so I went back to him and he was like, did you tell him? I was like, yeah. He said no. I was like, well, fucking tell him again. So, really call him a fat shit. And like, you know, you've got people in the audience who are like, go, what the fuck, what's going on? And like, he just wouldn't do it. And so he proper was giving him fucking chops on the chest and everything to like say, like, you know,
that's
you
the funny
should call
thing,
me
like,
a fat shit.
that's the thing that, like, weirdly, because I've not had that connection with the business that you have, because you've done that training, you know, and it sounds like a real education and really interesting behind the scenes look. The closest I've got, weirdly, is like watching things like Beyond the Mat, or watching like quite recently I watched that Fighting with My Family, and they make a point about this whole like thing with Paige giving a receipt. And then they're like, that we don't do that in WWE, but that is so common in indie promotions. Is like that's the quickest way to learn. Like, so it makes me laugh when you say about the chops of like, yeah, if you're not going to do as you're told, we're going to make sure you do next time.
They fucking do that in the WWE, 100%.
We saw Randy Orton do that to Mr. Kennedy, not even subtly. So they definitely do that.
Well, it was one of the Royal Rumbles. I'm not sure if it was the one that we watched. It might have been the one before. But Braun Strowman fucking kneed Brock Lesnar in the face accidentally. But like, he fucking kneed him in the face, and Brock Lesnar went, okay, boof. And you see Braun just drop, and he's like, fuck. And it was like, there was no animosity after that. It was just, you know, the business. It's like,
well, the fact of the matter is, Brock Lesnar is a beast in the UFC as well. So Braun wasn't going to fuck with him. Yeah, you might be a strong man, Braun, but Jesus.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I think to anyone who is listening to this, and, you know, thanks for listening to these crazy things we're chatting about now. But, you know, to me and Anthony, you know, I think we've spoken a few times about like how wrestling's impacted our lives, how long we've been watching it for and stuff like that. But there was a point probably around like when we were like 11, 12 years old or so, where it was like our peak, wasn't it? And it was this is, I think, like, wrestling was mainstream.
This was the thing. Like, the whole world, I think, was like big on wrestling at that point for some reason. That's what the Attitude Era was, I suppose, in a lot of senses of like, WWE had changed the game. Obviously due to competing with WCW, so you can't knock them for their influence on it. But there was a point when the whole world, like, I don't think WWE have ever even got near those numbers again, really. Which isn't, you know, they still do well on the numbers front, but this was at its peak, and literally everyone was into wrestling. Like, when we started high school, everyone was into wrestling. Everyone, not a single person. The boys, the girls, fucking everybody. And that was it. That come break time, the hallways, the gyms, wherever you hung out, was just people wrestling. It was crazy.
You know, tough streets. I'm telling you. You know, people pedigreeing each other on picnic tables. It was all going on.
Do you know what? It's funny though, because like, as a grown up now, you think, Jesus, them teachers must have had a hard time of people just accidentally injuring each other, because we weren't even slightly safe, and everyone loved Triple H, so there was constant pedigrees. Like, the amount of people who must have hurt their heads.
Oh my God. Well, people didn't know how to fucking execute the move, did they? So they were just like, yeah, I'm going to hold your arms, I'm going to fucking twat your head into the floor. And like, that was how it happened. So, but I mean, if you think about our teachers, remember fucking Mr. Davo getting locked in a cupboard in a math lesson? Like,
that sounds hysterical. No offense.
You know, these were things that happened like quite often. Like, we had a math teacher called Mr. Davo, who was beaten up pretty much every lesson by the the popular kids. We had an English teacher who also got locked in a room at one point and had a mental breakdown. So those are our high school years.
Yeah, I remember them doing the same with it. Like she was a French teacher who was, I think she was actually learning at the time, so she wasn't like, I don't quite know how that works. She wasn't our proper French teacher, but she was there to like do some experience in the classroom or whatever, and she got such a hard fucking time as well. Like, yeah.
You know what? I remember this, and if she's listening, which she won't be, but I remember this is one of my fucking coming to age moments, Anthony. I think it was year 8. We went away on some sort of school trip to France, I think, and our French teacher, we were getting changed in the piscine, which was the pool. And I was I happened to be in the changing room next to it, and for some reason I happened to try and knock on next door, like to her thing to, I don't know, I literally don't remember what it was for, but I needed to speak to a teacher for whatever reason, and I knocked on, and her door wasn't locked, and I knocked forward, and I just saw her just getting changed, and it was my crowning moment. I was like, oh, it was like everything every 12-year-old dreams of, really. That is it. That is it. I think a year later you hit me in the face with a netball, and you felt really bad about it, and so you were constantly. I was constantly a favorite after that, and I was like, well, am I your favorite because of that, or because we had that moment in the cubicle that one time in front? So,
yeah, like I almost an unfair statement when I say this, so apologies, but I think when we were teenagers, and obviously you're interested in girls, I think she was probably the only viable candidate as teachers go for want of fancy, as I recall. No offense to the other teachers, but most of them were considerably older.
Yeah, I think for young adolescent boys, she was definitely the one. So I felt like I had a good advantage there when it came to my experience.
He would regale people with the tales of what he saw.
Oh yeah. I was there like the fucking what do they call it? The fucking bard or whatever, the old school like. Once I saw some tits. Yeah.
That's funny. But as far as high school memories, wrestling wise go, like the main thing I remember was a really badly executed on my part F5 to you to what was a concrete floor.
I don't remember that.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, you had a week off school.
Yeah.
And some physio.
I think the teeth got many teeth.
But yeah, like I remember stuff like that, which is probably looking back now is like this is where the teachers must have had a really hard time trying to clamp down on this shit, because we weren't even like, it wasn't like aggressive fighting, was it? It was just everyone goofing around with wrestling moves, which was probably more dangerous because you weren't trying to hurt each other, but had the potential to really fucking hurt each other.
Well, this is before the whole "don't try this at home." It was like, too late, I've killed a guy, Marty Jannetty. But yeah, I think it was definitely prevalent. I would say year 7, year 8 in our high school. I think you've alluded to it in the past with our drama production, where we had a witch themed thing, and it was like hoil, hoil, toil and tumble. I predict a Royal Rumble, and it was like, okay, all the lads now come in and twat each other for a good 20 minutes. Good times.
Yeah, it's that was crazy. It was one of them for me because I was never like. We had our group of friends, and I think you skirted between popular and unpopular, if you don't mind me saying, Carl, but I was never in the popular crowd. So when it come to the Rumble, it was like, everyone had already bagsied like The Rock or Stone Cold or Kane or like all the cool ones, like the popular kids jumped on straight away. So it was like, unless you were in that clique, you were going to be somebody like a little less known, let's say, or a little less popular, or whomever you actually happened to have the music for, because we had the WWF Volume 2 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was your CD actually.
It might have been, yeah.
And it was like, because I remember originally I was going to be with one of our friends, Phil, and we were going to be the Dudley Boys, and it was like, it's not on the CD, so we couldn't. I honestly can't even remember. I can't even remember who I ended up being, but I remember that, and it was like, that didn't work out, so we both had to do different things. But it was like we were like that. That was the day. You didn't have like streaming, you didn't have MPs. It was like whatever's on the CD is what we're limited.
I don't remember like 100%. I think I managed to get Triple H, because I remember obviously the cock of the school He was the big, muscly, fucking, the big guy in our year. And he was also into wrestling. And I think he was fine with me being Triple H as long as he got to gorilla fucking press me in the air and slam me onto something.
Nice.
And I was like, I get to be Triple H, so that's fine, right?
Yeah.
I regretted it.
And
like,
you fully know what you're doing with a gorilla press, so that's fine.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So that's fine because until I'm not big now, but year 7 I was probably about 4 foot tall. I probably weighed about 90 pounds. So yeah, I was definitely not a big guy. So he was quite easily able to gorilla press me and throw me onto something, which but it was fine.
I think they were them crash mats, weren't they? We were using them crash mats from the gymnastics.
But I remember I got to pedigree him on the floor, and I twatted his head into the floor, and he hated me for it afterwards. And I was like, "Shit, he's going to get me absolutely battered here." But he was okay with it in the end. But
he knows what a botch was. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Botchamania. That is my life. But yeah, no, I think there was definite times where our kind of early years, year 7, year 8, where wrestling was fucking. Everybody wanted to be doing it, to be like watching it. I remember I had at the time, and like I'm from quite a poor family. Like we didn't have a lot of money.
Oh, I thought you were going to break into Bohemian Rhapsody for a second.
I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. But I'm like, we're not well off. Like, they'd always like my dad, for example, had always done everything he could to like do well by me. And I remember he got me a subscription to WWF magazine. And I remember that was like amazing because we didn't have cable. There's a big we talk about times where there's big gaps in our wrestling knowledge, and it's because I didn't have cable. I couldn't watch it. There was a time where luckily I didn't have cable, but Channel 4 got the rights, and that was like our free local broadcasting. And I got to watch some of this. I got to see Mae Young's boob, so it wasn't amazing. Like, let's be honest, but I also got to see the cat's boob, so that was good. So peaks and troughs. But I remember I had the subscription to WWF magazine. I remember wrestling was so popular that in like drama class or whatever it was, there was some class we had in the arts theatre, and I remember I'd bring my magazines in, and they'd all be like, do you know what? I want to. I'm like, can I see this? Can I see that? Who's the centerfold? And it'd be like Trish Stratus or something, and be like, yeah, or like, lads. I like, fucking 11, 12 years old. So, there was stuff like that.
Well, this is exactly what WWE. We've cited it before. WWE, when we talked about women's evolution, WWE knew what they were doing at that point. Sex sells, and that's what they were interested in. Like, that's why they weren't women's wrestlers at that point. That's what they were doing, and that's why you had centerfolds in these magazines. It was just exactly what they were catering to. And again, we were teenagers and we were interested in women, so of course we were going to look.
That's it. I had a Dreamcast at the time, Sega Dreamcast, which had a internet browser. I'm not ashamed to admit. Year 7, I would type in Britney Spears nude because who wouldn't do that?
Exactly.
Just saying.
But yeah, no, I like. It's funny you mentioned because that's where some of the gaps in my wrestling knowledge came from. Because obviously, on some level, I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think my interest in wrestling started just because I was sort of swept into the crowd of like the world fucking loved it. But I found something that I really enjoyed. You know what I mean? But I was kept to, I think initially it was like Sunday Night Heat. I think it aired on Channel 4, so you could watch Heat. And then we got Sky, which was satellite for any Yankee listeners. So we got satellite, and then you could get the more WWE stuff. But I remember again, like, you'd have to pay additionally for the sports channels, and nobody in my family was really sports people. No one was into football or soccer, again, if you're American. So the sports channels just weren't a thing. So I couldn't watch Raw, but SmackDown for whatever reason was on a normal channel. It was on Sky One. So I could watch SmackDown every Saturday, but I couldn't watch Raw. So I had like this sort of half gap. So like, weirdly, and I don't know if it did influence it overall, but like Undertaker was a big staple on SmackDown. So consequently, Undertaker was my favorite wrestler. Now, I don't know whether that would have been different had I have been watching the whole product at that time. Do you know what I mean? But like, you get like I didn't see a lot of Triple H, but I saw a lot of Undertaker. So it's interesting the way it works. So I don't know if I was influenced by the fact that SmackDown was more my show because that was the show I got, as a kid. And obviously as I get older, I watch both now, and I hate everything.
Well, like, to be fair, I feel like that is the biggest anomaly between us, is that I have been watching this shit since 1992. So, like, for me, Undertaker is Dead Man Undertaker, and for you, Undertaker is like American Badass.
Yeah, he was the American Badass.
It's mad. Like, it's
I
crazy.
had Undertaker, like American Badass, just coming out of the Kid Rock music. I don't know why I'm measuring this in music. Just coming out of the Kid Rock music into Limp Bizkit, and then doing the whole Big Evil thing where he had, I think it was a track by Jim Johnson. Like, you've done it now, which was awesome, by the way. But yeah, we had that for such a long time, and I was so invested in like Kane coming back and sort of having that Buried Alive match, and then almost. It was for you. It was like he's coming back to being the Dead Man, but for me, that was like my introduction to the Dead Man. That made me then look back at it. You know what I mean? But yeah, like that was sort of the start of it, and then I had to sort of look back and look at the old. I think did he debut at Royal Rumble? I don't know if I'm right on that. No, it was a Survivor Series. I went back and watched his debuts and stuff like that. Anyway, and when he had Brother Love as his manager, was that not Brother Love? The fuck's his name?
Paul Bearer.
No, he had a fellow with the white jacket with the heart on. What the fuck was his name?
Jimmy Hart? Brother Love? It could have been Brother Love.
Brother Love. He did manage him at one point, didn't he?
He was his like original manager before Paul Bearer. I don't remember him coming back with him though, to be fair. So
no, sorry, he didn't come back with it. Like I went back and watched his debut. Okay. Sorry, and he had like that was a weird thing because like he came back as the Dead Man. Like that time around, he was with Paul Bearer. But when I went to look at his debut and stuff like that, he had Brother Love.
Well, that's
like that was slightly strange, but
Brother Love is the guy who runs Raw now, so that is Pritchard. So really? FYI, if you've not made that connection,
I never made that connection. But again, because I didn't know, I never made that connection.
Yeah, wow, so that is him. So obviously, he's been. I didn't
realize how much I hated the guy until now. Wow. Just kidding.
That's why he's got a red face for Raw. That's why I was like, I want to get off SmackDown. It doesn't really fit me. But yeah, no, I think it's mad really to like, because for me, for being such an old school mark for the Undertaker and seeing him, from his debut in Survivor Series in the fucking like with $1 Million Man all the way up to him going away injured and not seeing him for a couple of years, to come back at Judgment Day as the fucking American Badass, and it's mad to see the whole rise, like the rise and fall. I'm going to say for Undertaker, because I feel like, I don't know, that American Badass time and that whole like you're gonna pay Big Evil thing was a bit, I don't know. I was never really a fan, but I think that was because I was always an Undertaker Dead Man kind of guy. Do you know what I mean?
See, I think sadly for me, no, not for me, but sadly I think my perspective on it is when he was that character, that was when I think he was doing what you're meant to do, and he was sort of taking that back step and he was pushing new people, because that was when you were getting segments like I'm trying to remember who it was now, but like the segments where he's like, oh, you did good, kid, but you really need to lift you. And they did like backstage segments where he's giving advice and just sort of walking around as the big dog, as it were, and offering advice to the younger talent. And then
we had the whole thing with Cena, didn't we?
Yeah, he had the whole thing with Cena. I remember him trying to push Maven, which sadly never worked out. But for me, a lot of his years seemed to be like pushing younger talent when he was Big Evil. And I think maybe that was kind of the idea. He's like, he's not the Dead Man as he was. He's getting older because he was in his 40s, which is a fair age for a wrestler. And I think at that point, the idea was that he'd get over new talent. And then obviously Big Vinnie Mac comes along and goes, no, we want the Dead Man back. Can make more money out of that match. And then we got what we got. But I can see what you mean. I don't think that was ever Undertaker at his peak. I think that was him sort of heading to a different role in the company, but still loved it.
So, I mean, I don't want to like go off script, but I know one of the questions we had.
This entire segment's off script. There wasn't a script to go off.
Well, sorry, I don't want to go on script, but I know one of the questions that we spoke about, maybe talking about in the segment, was about the fact that we ended up starting a podcast, and like considering our backgrounds of someone like me who watched wrestling on and off for fucking most of my life, to someone who like as yourself, who got into it during the time it was popular and stuck with it through some shit times all the way through to today. Like, how did we end up forming this podcast?
I think for me, I think it's twofold in a way, because I think we've always been I think if we're honest with ourselves, we've always been looking for a creative outlet. And I think this it's to work perfectly. It's the
The
main
website
thing.
showed that a to the k.tk. It's not live, but go to it anyway.
Yeah. But I think that this is probably the first thing we've stuck to any great level, and that's no disrespect to us because we were kids. But like we've done all sorts. We've been doing web design. We've been script writers. I'm trying to remember stuff that we've been doing.
Well, obviously we had rodent technology.
We made rodent.
Roland's
Denton. To be fair,
rodent.
we did have an actual client with that. We just never really carried on.
Was that the dentist?
Yes, it was. We did a
I
website for a
that.
dentist, and then
we did,
and then we just kind of lost communication with it and never really pushed ourselves as a business. But again, we were kids, and we were sort of finding our feet, I suppose. But we've always been looking for, I think, that for creative outlets where, like, even before we were like trying to write things or trying to be creative in that way, we were always going to be wrestlers. We were going to go and we were going to. Because it's so easy to become a part of the WWE and become top of the business. That's what
I think as well. Not to digress too much, but like you speak about our like creative talent and stuff. Like we've had a few different avenues, haven't we? In our past, we've had a cartoon that we tried to get on Newgrounds. We had a parody show of Cabin Fever.
Which,
we've had.
I mean, I will relent on two things here, right? The cartoon was a rip off of Family Guy because we liked Family Guy at the time, right?
100%, yeah.
We discovered Family Guy. We were growing out of The Simpsons, as it were, and we discovered Family Guy. It was awesome, and we decided we were going to write our own, which was essentially a complete rip off. And personally, I don't think that holds up today. Now, the Cabin Fever one would probably still tickle me on some level, but it's incredibly niche, isn't it? To go, that first Cabin Fever that was made years ago is a weird parody we did.
Yeah, here's a weird parody that makes just me and Anthony laugh.
Yes,
fine. Yeah.
But we did write a sitcom that, whilst was probably quite influenced by Scrubs, I still think would hold up today. I have not got any of the scripts or could reference any of it, but I still think it probably would need a bit of polishing because we were still teenagers at the time. We were deciding to have all these random businesses, but I still think that's probably where there was at least a good bit of creativity and writing on our part that wasn't heavily influenced by something we enjoyed at the time.
No, definitely. I think that was the first time I thought that we because Oddballs and stuff, like we wrote individual episodes. That
was the cartoon, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. We did.
The cartoon, it was like, I'm going to write an episode, and then I'm going to write an episode, and Whereas for our sitcom, that I won't say the name of in case it comes into fruition one day, that was the first time that we kind of, I'm going to write like the outline, you're going to add the jokes, and so on and so forth, and it was like a more of a partnership.
I think one thing we learned was that we both had very different approaches to writing. And that was something we probably learned from goofing around with scripts. And that I want to give credit where credit's due to anyone listening. Carl is a much more of a fully fledged script writer than I am. To the point that I never fully finished anything. I just contributed to things.
Although
you've wrote things on your own, like on your own merit, that were really good.
Well, I mean, obviously, my dad is a screenwriter, so that kind of comes with the family. But I want to say
shout out to Gary.
Shout out to Gary, former Spitting Image. The new Spitting Image doesn't look that good, so
it's not what it was.
He's moved on to features now. Spitting Image is behind him, but nice. To be fair, as much as I appreciate that, obviously it's very nice to hear and stuff. Like Anthony is the funny one of the group, shall we say? He is the guy who, regardless of any kind of outline you have for this is the kind of story I want to tell, and he's like, well, wouldn't it be funny if this? It's like, fucking yes, it would be. So
that's sweet of you to say, Carl. But I've never. I honestly, I still think today I would struggle to make any cohesive story. Like one of the things I've always decided that I'd love to do at some point is write a book, and I can guarantee I will never finish that book. Because I don't have the mentality or the drive or whatever to fully. I have ideas more than that actual production side of it. I don't have the staying power, I suppose, to sort of flesh a full story out, I guess.
Do you know what I think's funny? And I think I've said this before a few times in the past. Like when we think of our projects we've done in the past, I've been like the JR. I've been like the guy who links everything together, and you've been like the Lawler who pops up with the fucking the sick jokes and like the comic relief, if you will.
I like that.
And then for whatever reason, our podcast seems to be completely the opposite way. Like, you're the guy who links everything together, and I'm here trying to find fucking funny jokes and weird shit to say. And I'm so out of my comfort zone because I don't think I'm the funny one of the group. But at the same time, I just feel like for this podcast, you're the guy who just like links it all together and just makes it work.
Do you know what I mean?
So I'm like,
I'm waiting for the comments on this particular segment. We're like, neither of you are the funny one, stuff like that.
and
But,
that's just my dad, Jen. Everyone we know and love really going, what the fuck are you doing, guys? But yeah, I think it's mad the way that it's kind of come about because historically, like, it's been me who's gone like, well, here's the baseline of what we want to do. And like Anthony's come in with like, you know what? Well, fucking this joke. It's like, that's amazing. And like for the podcast, I remember saying to like really early on, and I was like, Anthony, I don't know if this is the right balance because you're the guy who's like linking this all together, and I'm being relied on to be like the comic relief. Like, I'm not that funny, so it's like, well, is this gonna work? But I don't know. I feel like we managed to find a medium.
We seem to have a good balance, I think, and we're so grateful for it. But we do have an audience, so we must be doing something. We're always open to improving, so I'm not going to sit here arrogant and be like, "See, we're awesome," but like we must be doing something right. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
interestingly, I think this is probably the first project where, and correct me if you disagree, Carl, but like. I love podcasts. I'm majorly into podcasts. I listen to all sorts. And I think I was probably the one who was like, we should do a podcast, which is normally the other way around. Normally you've kind of got the idea for it. But I think this is the first time I've come to you with something, unless you disagree. But I think this is the first time.
Do you know why, Anthony?
We should do
this. Do you know why that is?
Go on.
I don't listen to podcasts. I'm sorry. Anyone who listens, I don't want to alienate our listeners. I just don't listen to, like, I listen to the Ricky Gervais show. Is the only podcast I've probably like listened to. But
guys,
for
for those who can't see it, I want you to be able to hear my disappointments because I've recommended several to Cal.
Yes, and they've all been shit. No, I'm just. But no, I don't know what it is. I've always been more of like a visual medium kind of thing. Whereas like you are more like, you've read so many more books than me. You've read fucking, all the, what's his name? Dan, someone to.
I enjoy Dan Brown. I've read Game of Thrones. I've read all the George Martin books. I've read all of Ian Fleming's James Bond novels. By no means
name drop.
No, I'm throwing them in because I want to make it clear that by no means am I one of these intellectuals. I'm like, oh yes, I read the Latin version and the French version.
He doesn't wait.
I've read
to know, but he is.
I've read your more approachable novels. Like I'm by no means an academic in that. But
whereas Anthony, I don't read. The only things I read. Where the fuck is it? Here we go. What do I read? If I'm going to read anything, I'm going to read The Lion's Tale by Chris Jericho. Around the World in Spandex.
Wait, where's that available, Carl?
On Amazon, on your local book retailer. But yeah, so I don't like typically read shit. Whereas, I think that is where, especially over like the last few years, you've just kind of been like, well, I've read all these things, and I'm like, oh shit. Whereas like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, I'm more of like a visual medium kind of guy. So podcasts for me is not something I've been kind of, exposed to as such, because I'm more of like a visual medium kind of guy, shall we say.
Yeah, I think the reason it started for me was, and this is probably where it is a different experience for you. Like, I have about half an hour drive every day if there's no traffic. And I enjoy radio. In fact, if I was ever given a dream job and it paid well, it would probably be to host a morning radio show, in all fairness. Like, it just seems like a lot of fun. But like, because I'm such a, what's the word? Is it petty? Like, basically, I won't name drop, but I listen to a certain radio show every morning, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And there were two fellas who were basically like you and me, Carl. They were film buffs. They just had a bit of banter, and they were long-term friends. And then they went off to pastures new, ironically, to do their own podcast. And they got other people in to host the morning show on this particular radio show. And I was like, fuck it, I'm not listening to it anymore. Can fuck off, because I'm that kind of guy. And then I started on podcasts because they went and started their own podcast. So I started listening to their podcast, which was exclusively about films. So then I started branching out a little bit to try and get a bit more variety. And then I just found myself filling those that basically an hour's worth of day every day, to and from work, just listening to podcasts. And then it just I kind of got the bug from there. And then obviously the more I listen to something, the more I'm involved with something, I'm like, we should do this. Like, because we do that with everything. Like, we should own a bar. Like, we're just that type of people.
We've had so many like fucking conversations, haven't we? Like, we should do this. We should do that.
Oh,
so
yeah,
many.
I think at one point we were gonna have a bowling alley. There's so many things.
Do you remember
we
that?
should have done.
The restaurant, if I remember, it was going to be different sports things, and it was going to be like, you know, condiments inside a basketball hoop, or like, you know, like all that kind of weird shit.
Yeah,
I remember it.
It was going to be so cool, but sadly, you'll never see it now, guys.
No.
This is probably one of them things where it's a good job. It's a good job that we weren't like ridiculously rich kids. You know, like you watch shows like Towie and stuff like that. I don't, by the way, but you know these shows exist like Towie and Made in Chelsea now, and they're just kids with money because they've inherited family money. They just got family money, and they say, "I'm going to buy a club," and I'm like, part of me is a bit like, some of the stuff it's like, buy a club, okay, but like if I had money, we'd probably start a ridiculous amount of unsuccessful businesses. That's it's a good job I'm not a millionaire. Is all I'm saying.
If we ever got any inkling of a money, and got any inkling of a money, we would spend all the money on the money. But no, I think if we ever got, you know, any kind of success, it would be interesting to say the least, because we would be like, let's have a restaurant, let's have a fucking karaoke DJ bar. It was okay.
Yeah. Because the idea came to me and it seems really cool, so let's do
that. Exactly. Jim Morrison came to me in a dream.
If you build it, they will come.
So yeah, I don't know.
I think I genuinely am so proud of us with this, because I think this is the most focused we've ever been. And I think we've made something I enjoy. Even if I've said it before and I'll say it again, apologies to anyone who's listened to every one of these. If this is just a mechanism for me and Carl to just catch up and have a bit of fun, and that's all it ever is, then I'm happy. But we're at a point now, you know, not to drop any spoilers, but we've already interviewed Thunder Rosa, which is a fucking massive deal for me. And now we've got another one potentially lined up. And I'm just like, you know, it's you know, it's becoming that thing, isn't it? Almost, I don't want to say living a dream. That's a bit too extreme, but like, it's just, it's so fun to, and you just take some pride in creating something from scratch and getting to a point, even to a point we're at now, where it's like, I've interviewed Thunder Rosa, for fuck's sake. It's awesome.
Like for me, like looking at the Anchor stats every week or so, and just seeing like that constant rise, and it's like thinking, you know, like as you said, we started this whole thing as being like, we are two mates who are, you know, we've been mates forever, we've grown up, we've got families, time is a bitch, we don't see each other, we don't spend like that much time together anymore, and especially since COVID's come in, like how do we, you know, stay in touch and keep talking? It was like, just off the back of that one thing in January, watching the Royal Rumble and being like, wouldn't it be amazing if we started a podcast? And it was like, and like for me at the time, I was like, I don't even know what podcasts are, but yeah, like, you know, it would be awesome. And to think in 7 months from that period of just watching the show and then doing like a report on it, like a rerun, and then to now where we are interviewing Thunder Rosa, we've got another one set up. We are, you know, consistently every week putting shows out there. We continue to climb. People are listening to us. It's mad, and it's not something I don't like. I mean, I don't know whether I'm speaking for myself or whatever, but I never set out to be, you know, anything other than just to like spend time with my best bud and just chat shit about wrestling and you know, life and stuff.
I totally agree with you, mate. I mean, I think we both said when we started this, like we obviously it's nice to get an audience, and we put it out there so we could get an audience, but the aim was always like, because it was nice to sort of set a schedule and dedicate that sort of thing to having a catch up and a chat, and that was always the aim. And I think we both said from day one, like, we never got any listeners. That's not what it's about, and I think that's probably the heart of it anyway. It's never what it's about, but because bear in mind, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but we've probably spoke more in the last 7 months than we have in a while, because like you say,
Yeah.
life overtakes and you go, oh yeah, we should have a catch up, or we should go out and go to the pub, or and things like that, but then life gets in the way and you don't. But because we've almost got this commitment to putting a podcast out there, you give it the time, I suppose. Like as almost as sad as that is, that you have to have something scheduled in, but that's kind of the way life is, isn't it? Both got families, both got jobs, so it leads to that. But yeah, the aim is there and does work. That it provides that catch up.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, we are coming up on 20 years almost, of knowing each other. Like a couple of years time,
that's crazy.
It's been that long. We are going to get to the point where we've probably known each other for like the same amount of time we've been alive. It's like that doesn't make sense. But do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, we're at a point now we've known each other longer than we've not known each other.
That's the one I mean. Yeah. But that is coming up like pretty quickly in terms of like where we are. Yeah, it's mad.
Yeah,
it's mad
crazy,
to think. It's mad to think, really, that we are here. We've got a podcast. We've got fans. We've got people listening. We've got interviews. We've got more interviews lined up. We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
mad.
Honestly, like, I don't know what the peak would be. Like, this is and this as I'm making it seem like it was planned. It wasn't. It's just come to my head. But what would be the peak for you, Carl? What would be the and this is no disrespect to anyone we interview, because you're all awesome and we love the company, we love the industry, should I say? But what would be the peak for you? Who would be the person you'd interview where you go, fuck, I've made it. I'm never going to do any better than this.
Shit. I don't know. Honestly, I would say either someone in WWE, the likes of Triple H, the likes of Roman Reigns, someone like top tier, or the likes of AEW, the likes of Jericho. Like, imagine Jericho, fucking hell.
Jericho, man. Jericho, I think he'd probably be on like, if you'd have asked me the question, I'd have probably said someone like Undertaker or something like that. But I think Jericho would definitely be one. Like, that would be unfathomable for me in some senses.
And like, I don't know, like Cody, Tony Khan, like those guys are people that like I would never think, do you know what? We will interview these guys at any point in life. So to interview them, I'd be like, fucking hell, that is the peak. Like, where could we go from there? That would have to be the likes of Flair, Undertaker, Bret Hart. Like, that would have
imagine
to be
like, because to me, I think, and this, you might disagree, but I think the sort of the pinnacle of it, the person who would probably be the most difficult to obtain, but probably the nicest guy and probably be the most willing as well, weirdly, is The Rock. He's probably the most famous person to ever come out of wrestling, to the point that he probably wouldn't even notice if we sent him a message to ask him. But again, he's such an awesome guy that he probably would do it, weirdly.
Yeah.
But like that, like, I can't imagine, and like, again, I can visualize the comments now where they go, yeah, don't have to imagine it, it's not going to fucking happen. But like, I couldn't imagine a scenario where we're like, yeah, we're going to interview The Rock today. Like, that would be like such a weird, surreal fucking thing.
What do you mean? We had that interview, that exclusive interview with The Rock.
Yeah.
About the XFL.
That went down like a lead balloon as well, didn't it? We try things, guys. We try and be funny.
Do you know what's so funny though? Like, we've had Orange Cassidy as our special guest, and obviously at the time he never spoke. It made perfect sense. It was fantastic. We had The Rock exclusive interview. We spliced a load of shit together. Yeah, that got a bit of backlash as well. And then we were like, shit, we've got Thunder Rosa. And it was like, how do we we
got to a point like, no one's going to take us seriously.
Exactly. It was like, shit, the amount of shit we've done. It was like, who was it? Who's the guy who cries wolf? That guy. That was like us. We were like, we cried wolf one too many times. They are not going to get behind us.
And for those of you like, well, why did you do that? Like, on some senses, we were a small podcast compared to a lot. Like, because I watch a lot of YouTube, I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I was well aware of people like What Culture and Cultaholic and stuff, and they were in the millions in terms of viewership. So I'm like, we're not going to get anywhere near interviews. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm like, well, maybe we could do something fun with it. And I think we both had the idea to have OC as the guest because he doesn't talk, so it was like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke. The Rock thing was honestly probably more just me trying to attempt at some sort of audio editing, because I do a lot of the audio editing. And again, a little bit of fun. And both of them did not go well. Not very well received, let's say. But yeah, because I always I'm not bitter. You know, I don't get upset about most, but like, I always remember like the comment we got on the OC one was like, I don't understand the word these guys are saying, and they're just reading they're just reading out news from other sources, and like, well, isn't that kind of the point? Like, I don't think I've ever been under the illusion of what the Ringside Report was, but we're condensing the news down to what we've seen, like, and come across. Like, a lot of it comes from other sources, so I was a bit puzzled by that as a comment. But it's like, okay, I mean, I could make my own up, but it probably won't be true. I don't know what you want from me, really. But yeah, you know, we try these things, and obviously, you prefer interviewing actual wrestlers for some reason.
No, yeah, people seem to care more when you actually, you know, famous people.
So we'll stick to that in future,
if you insist. But no, we do have a potential new interview coming up.
We have had communications with another up and coming star.
We have, and they are up and coming. They are AEW specific, and we like them very much. So hopefully,
and we sincerely hope it comes off. Like, because at this stage we're making inquiries. They've responded back, so they've shown interest, but obviously it's schedules permitting, I believe, at this point. So we'll see, and I do hope it comes off. And to be honest, it's good fun. I like getting to know. To be honest, there was a point where I was like, should we name these segments "Getting to Know You"? Because we were like approaching the likes of Thunder Rosa, who there were people who weren't WWE based. So I was like, is the idea that we get to know people who are on smaller promotions, but then it's kind of limiting, then, isn't it? Because if you get someone like Jericho, it's like, well, everyone knows Jericho. We're not getting to know him. You know what I mean? So
getting to know Jericho.
So I kind of abandoned that as a namesake idea. I had music and everything. It was going to be great, but hey ho. So a lot of you, because we're talking about the setup of the podcast, if you're curious, in terms of the setup, we both try and contribute evenly to the show. So anyone who's like, I don't know why you'd be looking to us for how you set up a podcast, because, you know, well, I don't know, just kind of slap one together. But obviously, we've mentioned it a couple of times. We use Anchor. It's a fantastic app. Not that I'm trying to throw a promotion out there, but it's a fantastic app for setting up quickly and getting it done. In terms of like how we've come across it, like, and this is me being fair, this is why it's not a promotion. When we started out, we were using Anchor's app to record it as well. We were recording the audio only. We were having a chat, and we were editing the audio in Anchor, and then that very quickly become very limiting. So if you got any, because I used to get a bit of interference from my mobile and stuff like that, it's very difficult to cut that out using Anchor's app. So then we took to using the computers. I think we initially used Skype or whichever, but then I was using, again, for anyone who's interested in this sort of stuff, I was using Audacity to do the audio editing. And then Carl would deal with the graphics side of things, because I don't know if you've noticed, but he's a wizard when it comes to the graphics. He created our logo. A lot of the fun merch ideas and the merch shirts have come from Carl's creative ideas. So he's the guy who can do that sort of stuff. So we kind of balanced it in that way, that I did the audio side of things. But I mean, I think it's interesting looking back at like going into sort of the reason I'm rambling about this. It's interesting looking back at what we started with to where we are now as well, because I think the production value has improved substantially the more we've learned about podcasting and different softwares and such like that. How do you find it, Cal?
I mean, for me, like I've said, I have no idea about podcasts. So I think for you to find Anchor, for you to, you know, go through those teething issues and find, like, obviously, like, we've come so far, like Power Director, we've come to, you know, Audacity, the way you edit these things and stuff as well. Like, you know, Anthony saying like, oh, Carl does the graphics and I just do the audio. Like, Anthony does most of the work, to be fair. I just, you know, show up. I'm entertaining as hell, obviously. And then
I think
I do the graphics, the socials and stuff, but Anthony is the one who does the videos, does the audio.
But again, like, I can't
together.
do the. I think you're selling yourself short a little bit there, because I can't do the videos without your graphics. Like, what they're not knowing is every week I go to you, right? I need this is the news for the week. I need graphics for that, and you're like, right, yeah, here's all the different images, here's all the graphics. You created our A to the K border that we use on YouTube. Like, otherwise it'd just be you and me on a screen like that. I wouldn't take much editing at all.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's the right balance at the minute. I think we both.
I think it's a good balance, but Anthony a bit more.
I disagree, but but yeah.
So
I think. Sorry, come on.
I was going to say, I think the only other thing, I know it's unscripted, that I wanted to talk about was the Roland Rumble, Anthony. The Rollins Rumble.
There's one other, and I don't know if you want to do it before the Rollins Rumble, because I do want to talk about this, because I think it's important to talk about this, and that is the merch we've had over the years.
Nah.
Yeah, we need to. We need to. Because, like, and this, I don't want to talk about this for me, because, like, most of the merch I've had, in fact, I think all the merch I've had has been shirts, but you've had some awesome merch over the years, Carl.
I've had some terrible merch as well, to be fair.
Well, you've had some awesome merch, because I remember I was going for a thing of, like, I wanted to get t-shirts, like, whenever we went to a show or something like that. So I know I had an Evolution t-shirt. I remember that quite well. When they were a thing, it was that the woman in the glass. Do you remember it?
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then I know I had like this. I don't think you could tag it to a particular wrestler, but it was like a WWE t-shirt and it had like Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle and a few different people on it. And then I think you got me an Undertaker t-shirt one time for like, that was actually when we were meeting up each year for the WrestleManias and the like. But it's been, for me, it's been all t-shirts, as much as I enjoy the belts and I enjoy like, I was never really into the figures as a kid, because I suppose I kind of outgrew them before I discovered wrestling in a way. So I never really had many of the figures. But one thing, the main things I do remember from the merch side of things was you had the Stone Cold Smoking Skull belt, which was awesome, and you had the it was actually the older style, the Eagle belt, wasn't it? The World Championship, but it was the not obviously what people would know now, but the older one with the eagle on it. So I know you had those two belts, but you had a lot of the figures over the years as well, some of the original figures as well.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of money, which we didn't have, to be fair, as a family, on wrestling merchandise. So Hasbro figures, I had pretty much the bulk of the collection. My favorite figure was probably IRS, because I happened to go to the dentist to have a couple of teeth removed. A lot of blood everywhere. And IRS, he had his mouth open, red mouth. I think I was about 5 or 6. I was like, it's like me, blood mouth. So, you know, as you imagine,
makes sense.
Favorite figure.
I like that.
But I had Hogan, I had like everyone that you could think of from a figure perspective. Then after that, I think my next merch was probably not until the Attitude Era, and I had obviously the DX shirt, the whole Suck It 69 thing.
Jersey, didn't you?
Yeah, I had that.
Awesome.
I had a Stone Cold one, which was like hockey jersey, I think, which is like also on my wall. I had the belts, as you said, so I had a few of them. I had definitely the Smoking Skull, definitely the Eagle Champ. I think I might have had the IC as well. But I had a few belts. I had the CDs, so I had the merch, the fucking WWE The Music Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5. I think I got like every one of them. So I had I think my favorite.
This was back when they were awesome as well, because Attitude Era, so you had some really cool songs.
Well, I mean, at the time, I think in school we had a guy who was like, "I will do you MP3s," and I was like, "That's amazing! I will pay you money for MP3s." And he'd give me the CD, and I was put it in my CD player. It didn't work, and he was like, "No, the MP3s, the video computer." And I was like, "I've got a computer. Who do you think I am? I'm poor." So, so I had to like give him that back, and then that was awkward.
Who the hell am I, Bill Gates?
Who do you think I am? But yeah, I remember, obviously, kind of a staple of my childhood was to wrestle some sort of teddy or figure or animal on the bed, which, you do as a child. You think the bed is the wrestling ring, as you do.
Makes a lot of sense.
Obviously, that is where I applied my trade. So the hard is a trampoline. I had a bed, and the bed is what did me good. So obviously, I did that. I would come out to Triple H's My Time quite frequently. That was my theme tune.
It was a hell of a track, that, to be fair. It fits so well to his character as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Like at the time.
Later on, Anthony, in life, I think to the time you talked about your t-shirt collection, I think I got a Chain Gang t-shirt. And I think at the time I was like, that was a bad idea. But at the same time, I got a Chain Gang t-shirt.
Nice.
I think I got a Triple H one. I got a couple of CM Punk ones, actually. I got the Best in the World one, but I ordered it and it was a bit too small. which wasn't ideal.
Mm.
And then I got the best in the world one as well, which was
See,
good.
the best in the world one, as I recall, it was at the white one with the red stars and the fist in the middle with the red
Yeah.
lightning bolt. I think that was probably the best shirt he had, in all fairness, merch wise.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
good choice. Good choice.
Well, yeah. So I got that one, and I got the grey one afterwards, which I think was still the best in the world one, but it was yeah.
Yeah, it was a slight variant in it, similar
Mm.
design. But yeah, back when he was like, really popular, crazy.
Yeah, imagine. And then other than that, I think I've had a Bret Hart one, and then that's about it.
Oh yeah, you got the Bret Hart one.
Hulk Hogan. I went to his beach shop in Florida. Got a T-shirt there as well.
Nice. And don't forget, you've got the red Universal title that I believe your son now owns.
My son owns it. He loves pressing the yes button and doing this.
Yes, because it's one of them electronic ones, isn't it? It has a button on it that makes noise.
Yep.
Classic.
And
doesn't fit you.
He does not watch wrestling.
For kids.
I've tried to make him watch wrestling. He's not asked, but press that button. He's doing this. He hasn't got a fucking clue why he's doing it.
I love it.
One day he'll know. One day.
That's it. So I say for me, other than I had an abundance of T-shirts and probably some I'm forgetting, but I did have a few shirts to that effect. I never really had any of the other merch, unless you count games. I had a lot of the games, but that's a different thing for a different. In fact, we've done a segment on video games. We mentioned a lot of what we own then anyway. So sorry, I did interrupt to cover that one. I know you wanted to talk unscriptedly, of course, about the Rollers Rumble.
Exactly, completely off script. No, I think we had it as a talking point because obviously we started a podcast. We are, getting views, getting people listening to our show, which is amazing.
It's crazy, yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's been one of my dreams since I was a kid back in 1982. I think I was like 3 or 4 years old. I've wanted to be a wrestler and to main event a show. Obviously, Anthony alluded to before, I worked with GPW and NPWA at like trying to hone that craft, at like teenage years, 15, 16, 17, and then nothing since. So I think, I'm 32, and for my 33rd birthday, 30 years in the making, I was 3 years old when I started watching the show. I would like to main event a show because that was my dream. Who says you can give up on your dreams? So I've come up with the concept of the Roland Rumble, which is a terrible concept, but at the same time,
that's an awesome concept.
For me, it is a throwback to the Rumble, which is what me and Anthony started this podcast on.
Yep.
It's my kind of rise to, do you know what? It's my dream to do this, and 30 years in the making. We are hopefully gonna put on a show. Is the plan?
Yes. We're and it's one of them. We are dreamers, always, permanently. But we're in talks. We've spoken to a few different people, wrestler wise. We're speaking to venues at the minute. I've no doubt this is going to happen in some form or other. Quite the scale of it, we're not too sure yet because it depends on how much involvement we can get. But it's obviously going to be for a great cause, and it helps live out an awesome dream. And I mean, you can't do more than that, can you? To be fair, I mean, it's surreal actually, Carl, to have what is essentially your debut and your retirement in the same fucking night.
Exactly. I think I've obviously been ref before. I've had a couple of amateur matches, but this will be my first professional match, and it'll be one which is also my retirement, as Anthony said. So,
which if you don't do a retirement speech afterwards, I'm gonna
I think that'll be the fucking the be all end all.
Leave your hat and gloves in the ring.
I need to do that 100%. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's been like a lifelong dream to be a wrestler. Obviously, it's something that
we were adamant as kids we were going to do this. We're going to go to America. We're going to make it big because it's easy enough to do. Like, it's that simple. You just go, you make a name for yourself, become the biggest in the world.
So it's like, why not? Why not? Like, for my 33rd birthday, instead of a birthday party, why don't I have a wrestling show, which I happen to be the main event of? So, we're still trying to decide who is a worthy opponent, based on my skill set, and anyone who wants to step up to that challenge, I think will be beneficial and helpful to me, but obviously at the same time a good challenge. So still trying to find that, but whoever that might be, obviously
it's a tough choice, man. And it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Like there's so many decent competitors out there. A lot of people who could really give you the challenge, I suppose. But
yeah, well, I mean, as of now, no one stepped up, so it's
crazy, unreal.
Yeah, we will see if anyone wants to take me on, but it is a passion project. It is something which is 30 years in the making. It is a lifelong dream to be a main event wrestling star, and I will do that for one night and one night only. And then after them bumps, after them bruises, I will gracefully retire and go back to my hole. And never do this again, and I will see more sense. But yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out. Obviously, we've spoken about it a couple of times, but that's something else which we are currently exploring as well. And big thanks to Anthony who's helping me on that journey.
Of course, and you never know, you might even see me in the ring as well. Like,
well, I mean, that would be amazing.
No, joking aside, Carl, it's going to be a very fun night of wrestling. And we just need to nail down a venue first of all. Very difficult. Like anyone who's interested in the booking side of things, like it's very difficult at this moment in time to try and book a venue when most of them aren't allowed to open at all. Thanks, government. Yeah. So that's probably been one of the biggest difficulties for us, because obviously we want to have the venue and the date nailed in before we start booking wrestlers. Although we've in talks with a few. It's difficult to say to them, yeah, but we're not 100% sure where yet. So that's always a bit of a pain. But no, I know Carl. He's the most driven person I've ever met. So he's going to make it happen.
That is true. I am driven everywhere I go, like Jen normally. But
nice.
I am definitely driven. So we will see. Hopefully I can make it happen. Hopefully I can find a venue. Obviously I've got a backup in mind, and I don't want to call it a backup because obviously
it's definitely a good shout, but
I think based on the audience size and stuff, hopefully we could get a slightly bigger venue. But if not,
there's still an option there. Yeah. But I mean, for anyone interested, Carl, will it be entitled the Rollins Rumble? Are we expecting a Rumble at the time?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think the plan is to have a couple of opening matches. We are going to have a Rumble of sorts with quite a few wrestlers. Hopefully we can get 30, it might end up being 20-man Rumble, or women. And then I think for the main event, I would like to, that has been my goal, my dream is to be the main event of a wrestling show. So,
hey everybody, this is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K.